Oh, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Takadu live webinar. Our presenter today will be Udi Geismar, and we have a guest from customer EPM, and we have Carlos later to talk also a little bit. Just a few administrative issues. You have at the bottom of your screen a Q&A button. Please use that to submit your questions, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Don't use the chat section, but the Q&A section to submit your questions. That's all for me, and Udi, you can start.
Thank you very much, Inat, and welcome everyone. In today's presentation, we will talk about our experience in regards to changes utilities are going through when they deploy Takadu. Sometimes it's before even they deploy Takadu, but mostly it's during the deployment and after the deployment when they use the solution. Since the changes are sometimes significant, we found that we think that it's going to be very useful to share the experience and help everyone that is interested to plan their next actions in advance. Our agenda today, since not everyone that joins this webinar knows Takadu. Not everyone is necessarily a customer of Takadu, so we'll speak a little bit about who we are and what we do, just to give a quick background about Takadu. And later we'll speak about the changes from several aspects. We'll describe the background and why a change is normal, is expected. We'll speak about the areas of improvements and what to prepare for. As Inat mentioned, Carlos from EPM will describe some aspects of their changes following the deployment of Takadu, and we'll finish with a summary of everything that we are going to speak about. Again, if anyone has a question, please use the Q&A button and probably at the bottom of your screen, and send us your questions. We hope that we'll have enough time at the end of the presentation to go through all of the questions. So who we are and what we do. Takadu is a software solution. Our solution is an analytic solution. We are selling it to water utilities, distribution water utilities, and we are the solution. To this solution, we are connecting to the data that the utilities are collecting from their network, information such as flow, pressure, from all their areas. We are processing this data with an attempt to detect anomalies or incidents or events in our language, which are assets problems such as leaks, high and low pressure, meters that are not working, breach of water between adjacent areas, etc. And in addition to the detection of these asset failures or asset problems, Takadu is also a platform to manage those incidents throughout their life cycle. It's possible to share the information between different employees, and eventually to conclude and to mark and to close these events after fixing them. We have worldwide customers from Australia to South America and anything in between. We are a veteran solution, so the company was established more than 10 years ago. The solution on one end is very innovative, on the other hand it's very stable and veteran. And the solution is governed with the patents, so we are kind of invented this concept. and it's usually utilities find it very useful with ROI that is around 10 times over their investment. So that's about Takadu, and now we can concentrate on the subject of this webinar. So why do we need to consider those changes? Why are they important, and why to change? I'll just start by saying that Takadu is a technological solution, and utilities that implement the solution, that buy and implement the solution, are practically experience a technological leap between where they were before and after Takadu. And since the solution is not replacing anyone in the loop, but rather assist people with their day-to-day decisions, it's important to use it in a proper way, as otherwise people are just not using it and say that maybe it's not valuable, and etc. So since the human factor is very important, our experience, our customers' experience is that you need to take it into consideration in advance, and plan about how to manage those changes along the deployment or after the deployment, such that you will not be surprised and be able to benefit and gain all the benefits from the solution as much as possible. So what do we see as the key recommendations and the areas that we recommend to improve or to change or to consider as a potential for changes? First of all, it's important to nominate a leader from the organization. That person should be an executive manager. We know that people are obviously, or most likely, people do not like to make any changes, and if we are asking people at the just users or people that are low in the hierarchy to change something, usually it doesn't work. Everyone has his agenda, and people are getting tasks from their management, and if management is not driving the change, change will never happen. The second point is related to users. It's very important that and it's usually more successful to nominate users from the core of the operation. Core of the operation can be something like from the control room or something equivalent. It's usually less successful when you nominate users from the innovation or from any department that is not tightly connected with the operation. Now, users do not need to use the system 24/7. So for example, if you have a network of roughly 2,000 kilometers, one user will be enough, and that user will need to use the system for something like 1.5 hours every day. So it's not a full-time job to use Takadu. They can do other things. If the organization works in shifts, we recommend to assign people from each shift to be able to use the system. That's it. It's very important that people will use the system from the core of the operation, and the reason is that since the solution is helping people to take decisions, those decisions are taken from the control room, from the core of the business. And if it's people that are not from that area of the business, and they are not the ones that are taking the decisions, then usually it doesn't work. Training of new users and training at the end of the deployment, we recommend to start with the light training of a couple of hours remotely sessions close to the time we move the solution to production. We start using the utility starts using the solution. It's a couple of hours to give those users orientation about the system, how to start using it, but it's not all the bits and bytes. We then advise them to not to play, but to start using the system in a light way for a couple of weeks. And after experience some, and after gaining some experience and gaining some confidence in the system, we then suggest to hold a more thorough training that usually takes something like 1 or 2 days, either remotely or on site. And then we train the users about all the technicality, all the bits and bytes of the system, all the new processes that we recommend them to follow, such that after those 2 days or 1 or 2 days, they are capable to run all their day-to-day activities with the system. And the next stage of the training is practically ad hoc. It's not structured, but whenever new users are joining the system and they need to be trained, or if we introduce a new functionality, or if there is any request to rehearse on something that we taught earlier, then we can plan and perform this training again for from something like 20 minutes up to a couple of hours, depends on the subject, and then we can repeat that along the adoption phase. The benefits and the value from the system. Sometimes users or utilities are expecting that as early as we turn on the switch and the system is they start using the system, they will experience all the bells and whistles and all the great values that they eventually will experience. Sometimes it happens, but it is very common that utilities are sometimes surprised, but when we turn on the system, utilities start seeing, or they start having better visibility on what's going on in their network. And sometimes they are surprised, but not all of their sensors are working, and not all of the DMAs are indeed closed supply zones. And when this happens, that's what they see at the beginning. So there is one truth across the board. Everyone can see what's going on. And this is an opportunity for the utility to sometimes improve a little bit the hardware. Sometimes they require to modify the configuration of some of the meters. Sometimes they detect that some of the DMAs are missing some meters, etc. If everything works fine, and if most of things are working fine, then the next stage of the value chain, if you will, is to experience basic events. Basic events is events that are related to meters that are working or not working. Maybe they are working but are not transmitting the data in a proper way. Things that are rather more simple to detect. And then the next phase is the detection of more sophisticated events that are based on predictions. These are the short forecast that the system produces. And in order to detect those sophisticated leaks or advanced events, the system requires to be set up in a proper way. Sometimes it happens fast, and sometimes it happens as early as we turn on the switch and the system and the users start using the system. And sometimes it takes weeks to months before the utilities are getting to the stage that they are gaining the most advanced values from the system. Planning is good and execution is also good, but it's also important to measure the adoption and to measure how good the organization adopts the new solution. And when we are saying that it's important to measure, it's important to measure things like what is the value, how users are using the system. Are you as a utility sending a good amount of data to Takadu? Are you monitoring all the areas in a proper way? Is the data that you are collecting is of a good quality? All these kind of things are important to measure on an ongoing basis. Our methodology is to work with the utility from the time they go live in practically two aspects. One is to plan meetings, recurring meetings of something like between once a week to once every 2 or 3 weeks, and then we can help them by answering questions, view what they do, and help them with the problems that they experience, and also produce for them operational reports that are helping them to understand what is the value that they are gaining, let's say, over the last month or so. What are the aspects of usability? So we see if users are getting into the system, if they are closing events, how long it takes them to close the events, are they tagging the events, all these kind of things that enable us to conclude if users are using the system in the right amount and the right pace. And last is related to the quality and quantity of data that the utility is collecting and sharing with us for monitoring purposes. Obviously, changes are eventually are defined through modification of some of the working processes. And if before Takadu, the processes were defined based on the capabilities of the older technology that were in use, and based on the legacy of things that the utility experienced, with the Takadu or after throughout the adoption of Takadu enables the utility to do things in a different way, or to do things that before they could not do. Starting with the visibility that everyone can view the system, and continues with the ability to share more information between different people, and to share the events and type comments when they are working on the events. All this kind of sharing and sharing of information between employees and departments enables to eliminate some of the silos between different departments, something that makes everything a little bit more efficient. I'll take just a couple of examples. So, for example, if before using Takadu, utilities were used to review manually every day their nightline reports in order to understand if and where there is a leak, Takadu is now doing it automatically, not by reviewing the nightline, but reviewing it in a more sophisticated way, but doing it automatically and pushing to the users information about incidents or potential leaks when the system detects them. Or if in the past utilities were used to scan the DMAs in a sequential or periodic way, and now with Takadu, now that the system detects events, they can scan only the relevant DMAs in just in time. So it's a different concept and different capabilities that are advising and calling for the utilities to review their working procedures and make changes whenever required. By the way, when we are training new users, we are not only train them technically how to use the system, but we also share with them kind of best practices about recommendation of processes to follow. It's not a must, and everyone can do their adjustment on top of that. But we are not expecting you as a user or as a new customer to invent all the processes. We are sharing with you our best practices, or not ours, but the community's best practices, and then you can use it as a basis and either adopt them as is or modify them according to your understanding. A couple of examples about new processes and new ways of working. Here you see the events where people are typing the comments. So different people are managing the events in different times. based on the needs. So, for example, an analyst is starts working on the event, and later on he assigns the event to someone more senior in the engineering group, and then someone from the engineering group is consulting with the field crews, and each group can type their own comments, can attach files based on their needs, and kind of inject their input in due time about the event, such that eventually the analyst in the control room can decide about closing the event only when he collects all the information and he views that everything is now returned back to normal. Another example is collaboration between different systems in this case, where when we enable to share with Takadu information from other systems, such that analysts and other users of the system will be able to view the information. In this case, it's information from the work order systems. And then whenever they have an event in a certain area, they can decide whether, or they can view the event in the light of other activities that the organization is performing in the same area, and decide whether the event is concrete or happened because of a fault or because of a civil work that the other teams are performing at the same time. Takadu is a very rich solution, and but we recommend to start with the basics and gradually add on top of it more and more offerings. So we recommend to start with something like up to 2,000 kilometers of network main, and something like 50 to 80 DMAs, areas to monitor. And start with the basic modules that are include the events, the graphs, and the areas. And after gain some value and experience and confidence, and prove to yourself that the system is useful and you're gaining value, start looking for enhancements and broadening the horizon in terms of adding more modules, such as reports or integration with other modules or other external systems, and expanding the solution to monitor additional areas of the network in case the network is much larger. This can happen after from starting as of 6 to 9 months, or sometimes even a year or so after starting using the system. Carlos, I hope you are with us. The next section is in the next section, Carlos from EPM will describe their experience and some aspects of their experience following the deployment of Takadu. Carlos, you're welcome to speak either English or Spanish, as you wish.
Carlos will join us in a second. I'm having some technical difficulties here. Carlos, can you hear us?
¿Me escuchan ahora?
Yes. Sí. Hola.
Ok. Bueno. Les voy a hablar entonces en español. Hernán va a estar traduciendo.
Okay, I'm going to talk in Spanish. So Hernán, hello, is going to translate.
Bien. Nuestra utilización de Takadu ha sido, como lo describió Udi, nosotros iniciamos con un piloto de 1 año y pasamos ya a la utilización completa de la herramienta al año siguiente.
Okay, our usage of Takadu is, as Udi has described, we started with a pilot for 1 year to later on jump into full deployment of the framework.
No voy a entrar en detalles del uso de la herramienta porque pues todos la conocen muy bien, pero sí hemos notado dos cambios muy significativos al interior de la empresa con el uso de Takadu.
I'm not going to get into details regarding the usage of Takadu because I think that we all know the the tool, but I am going to explain two very significant consequences of the usage of Takadu that we perceive in the company.
Bien, la primera de ellos es la facilidad para seleccionar los sectores que vamos a inspeccionar en busca de fugas no visibles.
The first one is how easy is to select or pick the right sectors to search the field team to look for different leaks.
Esto básicamente se debe a que en nuestra empresa el costo de la producción de agua es relativamente bajo. Entonces el personal que tenemos para búsqueda de fugas es poco. No logramos cubrir la totalidad de nuestro sistema y esta herramienta de Takadu nos ha permitido dirigir muy bien el personal a los sitios que más lo requieren.
Okay, the water price in Medellin is very low. Okay, the price of the cubic meter is very low. As a consequence, we don't have too much personnel assigned for a search team. Okay, for different search team, they don't have enough teams to do the search team, so they have to be very clever in order to assign these resources, limited resources, to the different areas.
Teniendo en cuenta esto, pues teníamos que analizar una gran cantidad de sectores antes de decidir a dónde enviar el personal.
Before, in the past, they have to analyze a large number of different sectors before deciding where to send the search team. Okay.
Ahora, con el uso de Takadu, con toda la información que nos entrega la herramienta, la comparación entre sectores, las etiquetas de clasificación y los filtros que permite, pues se ha hecho mucho más sencilla nuestra labor.
Thanks to the availability of information now we have Takadu now that they have Takadu with all the available information, comparison, they have the opportunity to compare between sector, do classification, to label the different events, to create filters, and all of that made the prioritization a very easy task.
Bien, y otra funcionalidad que también nos ha resultado muy útil es que hemos podido descartar otras alarmas o posibles eventos que simulan una fuga, pero que realmente no lo son y se deben a usos industriales puntuales o muchas veces fronteras entre DMAs abiertas.
Another very useful feature that they got from a very useful value that they got from Takadu was they were able now they are able to discard with the much less analysis effort those sectors with night line increases due to causes other than leakage, like temporary usage or perhaps open borders. Okay, now they are able to discard those.
Bien. Por otro lado, y ya pues aparte de la programación del trabajo, hemos observado otro beneficio bastante significativo.
Guys, the next slide, please. Thank you. They find out another very useful value coming from Takadu. Okay, they felt it inside the organization. Por favor,
Esta
Carlos.
es, sí, que hemos logrado una mejor comprobación de los resultados y la valoración de las actividades, especialmente en los distintos grupos involucrados en las tareas del control de pérdidas.
With Takadu, they got a better verification and assessment of the results of the activity among the groups involved in the process.
Bien. Esto ha ido a niveles, pero a medida que se van reparando las fugas, el personal involucrado ha podido apreciar fácilmente la recuperación de los caudales nocturnos y el mejoramiento en los sectores intervenidos.
As the leaks are repaired, the groups involved in the detection, localization, and repair of leaks can easily appreciate the effect of the volumes supplied in the intervened sector, how these volumes are getting lower and lower.
Adicionalmente, y muy destacable, es que se ha observado una mejor disposición entre los responsables de las distintas actividades del proceso de búsqueda sistemática de fugas y sobre todo que se les ha notado un mayor interés en lograr muy buenos resultados.
Okay, this is something related to the mood inside the organization. A better disposition has been observed among those responsible for the different activities in the systematic search of the leaks and a greater interest in achieving good results.
Finalmente, lo que se ha logrado ha llevado a que ya Takadu sea reconocido entre los diferentes grupos de trabajo y especialmente entre los directivos de esas dependencias involucradas en el proceso.
All this contribution of the Takadu in the management of technical leaks is already been recognized at the level of the unit management. Okay, the leaders, the different heads of the different departments are realize about value of this service.
Bueno, finalmente el comentario que quiero darles es que la herramienta es realmente muy interesante, va a lo que promete. El manejo de los DMAs es óptimo. Sin embargo, una de las claves de la utilización de la herramienta es la disposición del personal necesario para sacarle el mayor provecho.
Okay, finally, Carlos wants to share with us that he does think that the tool provides a great value and it does do what it promises. And they got very good benefits from it. But it's very important to take into account that you need to assign the right resources to manage this, to do the analysis and so on, in order to get all these benefits.
Very well.
Carlos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, Hernan. So before we move to the questions section, I'd like to summarize the topics that we discussed up to now and mention that adoption is not something that, adoption of technology requires some changes, organizational changes or processes changes. and those changes never happen by themselves. So it's important to start from the top and nominate a leader to manage those changes. To nominate users from the core of the operation, as Carlos mentioned as well. Training users in stages. Don't dump everything at once, and don't expect to learn everything in just one session. Expect to gain value over time. It takes time, and it's not, don't be frustrated, and don't be rushed to experience the most higher value on day one of using the system. It will arrive, and do it, expect it to arrive gradually, which is fine. It's very important to plan the changes, the transformation in advance, but it's very important also to measure the how good and how the organization really adopts the solution from all possible aspects. We recommend on at least the three most important ones that are related to value, usability, and data. We suggest that to review the work processes of users across the organization when they use the system, and modify all the processes that may require some changes. Each organization will probably change some other aspects, some other processes, but it's important to review them and modify everything that is required to be changed. And last but not least is to start small and gradually grow. It's not too small, but small enough or large enough to gain enough value to begin with, gain some experience, gain some trust, personal trust and organization trust, and then gradually grow in terms of more modules, more features, and more parts, more portions of monitoring, more portions of the network. That's it. Inat, we can move to the section of the questions.
Great, thank you, Udi, and Carlos and Elnan. So we have a few questions coming in. The first one, do you give support throughout this transformation? If you can describe a little bit.
Yes, of course. We are along the deployment, which takes something like 6 to 8 weeks. We also speak with the customers about the potential changes that they will experience. Then along the training, we are sharing best practices that we see as a good starting point for the new processes. But we are not we are not performing those changes for the customer. That's something that the customer customers are doing by themselves, or buying it as a service from other consulting firms. We are not managing the changes for our customers. We advise them about the potential changes, and we help them to measure those changes along their deployment.
Okay. The next question is for Carlos. What were the drivers, the objectives for your organization to adopt the system, to adopt Takadu? Hernan, if you can translate to him.
Yes. What is it written? Can you read it to? What was it? Okay. Okay, Carlos, are you there? Carlos, ¿estás ahí?
Sí,
Okay.
claro.
¿Cuáles fueron los objetivos, sí, que llevaron a la organización, una organización como NPM, a adoptar un sistema como Takadu? ¿Qué era lo que estaban persiguiendo?
Sí, como les dije al principio, nuestro costo de producción del agua es bastante bajo. Por eso no tenemos un gran grupo de personal en búsqueda de fugas, porque la relación beneficio-costo no nos da para eso. Sin embargo, somos conscientes pues, de la importancia del control de las pérdidas técnicas, y Takadu nos ofrece ese direccionamiento y esa eficiencia que buscamos entonces con un personal menor.
Okay, as Carlos said before, the water price in this particular area of Colombia is quite cheap. Okay, it's a low cost, so they don't have enough. I mean, they have a small team in order to search for leaks, because their ROI is quite low regarding to that. Still, EPM recognize the value of keeping the assets alive and keeping control on the technical efficiency. Okay, this is very important. So this is where Takadu really shines, because it helps them to keep the technical efficiency under control, and this is why they decided to go with this service.
Y el otro punto es que tenemos una gran cantidad de señales, monitorizamos la red en muchísimos puntos y necesitábamos también un sistema que nos depurara esta información y nos mostrara de una manera más eficiente todos los eventos que se estaban produciendo en la red.
Okay. Another thing that they were looking for some sort of help regarding the amount of data they were collecting from the field. Okay, they have a lot of sensors, and they were getting drawn into these sensors, so they needed a clever system that could help them to analyze what was going on in their network. Okay, in a better way that they were doing before, with the manual analysis of the data coming from the SCADA and so on. So this was another reason to deploy Takadu. Okay, Carlos, gracias.
Thank you. So I have another question that is related to that. Maybe Uli also would like to address that. So Carlos mentioned the cheap price of water. Someone is asking how much is ROI when water is cheap, as mentioned in the case study. If water is cheap, water utilities are not concerned that much about the NRW. So what Carlos already said, is there any other anything else you want to add to that?
Yes, so I would say that even when the price of water is cheap, when you are in large organizations, when you are losing water, eventually all those leaks are accumulated, and eventually it costs money. Maybe it's not enough just by itself to justify the investment, but it is something that they take into consideration. Next is related to their operation. Utilities are looking to improve their efficiency in the back office and in the field teams. Carlos mentioned a little bit about the field teams. They don't have enough field team to cover everything that they need in order to deliver the right amount or the good amount of service to the consumers. But utilities in general are looking for ways to become more effective with the ways to handle all the problems of their network, as well as being more efficient in the office to monitor the assets in the best possible way, in the most effective way, by as little as possible of personnel. So this is the next aspect. The third aspect is related to customer service and the ability to comply with the regulations, to avoid tolls or avoid fines, penalties, just to comply with the expected regulations. And other aspects are related to ability to better monitoring their network, And the flip side of not being able to monitor the network is the risk of experiencing failure of assets that eventually will be very expensive to fix. So, for example, if your PRVs, pressure reduced valves, are failing, and they are not failing just one day, they are failing over time, and you don't see it because you are not monitoring those pressure sensors in a good way, you are subjected to a great burst in the downstream just after those PRVs. So it's important to monitor all the network, all the meters, and validate that they are working fine. Eventually, what we see with our customers that their value over the investment starts from 5 times more than the investment and ends with 20 times. Depends on where they are around the world and the way they use the system, the size of the organization, and their internal costs.
Excellent, thank you. There's another question for Carlos. Which departments are using the tool?
Carlos, ¿qué departamento están empleando hoy la herramienta?
Sí, actualmente la usamos en distintos departamentos. El primero, pues, es el que está supervisando todas las señales del sistema. Por ahí inicia la visualización. Posteriormente lo tenemos en un grupo que está seleccionando los sectores críticos para hacer recorridos, y de ahí lo pasamos a los que hacen los propios recorridos y finalmente los que hacen la reparación de las fugas. Hay que diferenciar que nosotros pues dedicamos bastante esfuerzo en la reparación de todos los daños, pero como son tantos DMAs, pues sí necesitábamos una herramienta como esta que nos dijera cuál es el sector más crítico, y en eso hemos ganado bastante con Takadu.
Okay. The teams involving here, the organization, it comes to several departments, okay? First of all, they have the supervisors in the control room that they see all the data, and they see the main events, what's going on with the main events. Also, there is a supervisor team that checks some of these events and where to send the field team, where to send the field team. They do the prioritization. After that, another user of the system is the people from the field team, the search team in the field. They look for the events. They see if they recover the situation, go back to normal or not, and so on. They do some verification. So this is all the different people or departments involved in the stream of this process. This is very important for in particular for Carlos. Carlos wanted to remark this, that in order to repair, as he said before, they are short in resources. So it's very, very important to them to prioritize. Okay, so in order to prioritize, they needed a tool like this, like Takadu, to help them to prioritize and send these resources to the specific areas to get the most value of their people.
Okay, thank you. The next question is also for Carlos. It was actually written in Spanish, so I will try to read it in Spanish. ¿Qué recomendaciones podría dar a una empresa que está iniciando o iniciar un proyecto con Takadu para obtener el mayor provecho a la herramienta y generar una transformación real?
Bravo, Inat.
Yay.
Nice, nice.
Hernán, sí, tradúceme.
Ok. ¿Qué recomendación?
Bueno,
okay.
lo importante...
Quite well, quite well. He's joking. He's making a joke.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Hay
thought my
un
accent
punto,
didn't work.
hay un punto muy importante y es tener preparado el personal que va a utilizar la herramienta. De pronto eso ha sido una de las dificultades nuestras, es que EPM, nuestra empresa, no es nueva en el uso de tecnología. Siempre hemos tenido tecnología de punta, pero la tecnología cambia mucho. Y ahora pues estamos utilizando Takadu y todo cambio requiere que la gente esté dispuesta a realizarlo y ese ha sido nuestra principal dificultad. Lograr tener un personal dispuesto a este cambio, a trabajar con otras herramientas, con otra tecnología y sacarle el mayor provecho. En eso nos hemos demorado. No sé si eso lo vas a traducir, Hernán, porque pues, la pregunta era como en español, entonces, pero de todas maneras para los demás.
Okay, okay. EPM has always has been always working with new technologies, okay, since a very long time. But these technologies are changing, are shifting. Okay, in this case, when Takadu arrived, was this new technology inside the organization, and one of the main challenges that they faced was not only to have, I mean, every change requires every change, and in this case, this change of technology requires some changes in the way that people behaves regarding the new technology. Okay, so in this particular case, some of the people inside the organization were reluctant to make the change. Okay, so it was a huge challenge for them to have the right disposition from the people to use Takadu, okay, and to adopt the new workflow or the new way to do things. Okay, so this is the main challenge. Okay, it's a cultural shock, and they were working on it, and we are evolving on that direction, and this is this was their main concern during the pilot. Okay, how to make the people adopt and feel comfortable with this new technology.
Okay, so there's another question in Spanish coming. I think, Hernan, I'll let you read it.
Okay.
The last one here.
Okay. Con el uso de la herramienta, ¿cómo bajaron los indicadores de pérdida en los DMAs? Por ejemplo, ¿cómo estaban antes de la herramienta y cómo se encuentran después de la puesta en marcha?
Hernan, can you translate the question to English?
Yes. Yes. After, I mean, this is some sort of comparison. What we are talking about the indicator, the different indicator, the technical efficiency of the minimum nightline. How was it before deploying Takadu, and how these indicators are doing now? Okay, after the usage of Takadu. What was the impact of Takadu inside the organization regarding this?
Bueno, nosotros estamos haciendo el seguimiento con base en la línea nocturna. Teníamos aproximadamente 4.000 litros por segundo de línea nocturna y actualmente estamos bordeando los 3.600 litros por segundo de línea nocturna.
Ok. Y podríamos decir que después de un año aproximadamente
Un
de
año.
trabajo en serio. Ok.
Ajá.
So the EPM is measuring by the nightline, okay, the minimum nightline, and before Takadu they were around 4,000 liters per second of minimum nightline, and after the usage of Takadu during 1 year, okay, after 1 year, they are doing now like 3,600 liters per second, okay. After working with Takadu for 1 year.
Y lo más importante es poder conservar el valor. ya lo hemos logrado, pero en instantes de tiempo solamente. Ahora lo hemos logrado mantener siempre a la baja y sostener ese valor bajo.
Okay, first of all, one of the main challenges is not only to reduce the leaks, but also to keep the same level of 9-line. This is a challenge for the organization, okay, to keep the same amount of losses during the time, not only to make a campaign, reduce the losses, to later on increase again, okay, just to keep it low. And Takadu helps a lot regarding that. Okay.
Well, more questions are coming in Spanish, so you take the lead.
Okay.
The last one.
The last one. Okay.
¿Cuánto
Okay.
ha sido?
¿Cuánto ha sido la reducción en el IANC, en el Young, en el indicador de Young o el IPUF desde que tienen la herramienta? Yo creo que aquí es más difícil de responder esto.
No, pero sí se ha notado.
Yes, a reduction in non-renewable water indicator or the IPAF since we have Takadu, okay, during the last period of a year. I think it's related to the 9-line. I don't know, perhaps, I don't know if you have this discrimination because the 9-line, as we know, it has technical efficiency, commercial efficiency, and some usage in there. And the non-renewable water is a little different because it's just considering perhaps the technical efficiency in this particular case, I think we are asking for. Carlos, ¿tienes algo para decir respecto de la parte de técnica, nada más que técnica, digamos? No sé si lo tenemos, esa criba la tenemos hecha, la discriminación entre lo que fue solo pérdidas técnicas con lo que fue pérdidas comerciales y consumo.
Sí, primero quiero decir que, relacionando con lo primero que dijimos del costo del agua en esta empresa, nosotros trabajamos muy fuerte en el tema del control de pérdidas no técnicas. Comenta eso y...
Okay, they are working very, very hard in pérdidas comerciales, te refieres, okay, okay. They are working really, really hard in the company in order to reduce commercial losses, okay.
Bueno, pero si uno quiere realmente mover los indicadores, eso se logra es con la reducción de pérdidas técnicas.
But they figure out that if they want really to decrease these indicators, they have to work a lot in the technical losses, okay.
Sí, porque con respecto a ingresos, las pérdidas comerciales son las que producen mejores resultados, pero para mover los indicadores, las pérdidas técnicas son las que realmente los mueven.
Okay. They get results, okay, they get some results working on commercial losses, but really if they reduce the technical losses, they saw that this was the change, okay, this was a turntable, okay, to work on technical losses.
Bueno,
aquí me aclaran que IPAF, Carlos, me aclaran simplemente que IPAF son las pérdidas por, perdón, creo que lo perdí por ahí, estaba por ahí el comentario, por facturados. Okay.
Sí, sí, para nosotros es de uso
pérdida
común
por usuario facturado, ¿no?
Sí. Sí. A ver, lo que pasa es que el indicador IPUF está muy beneficiado por el número de usuarios que se adicionan al sistema. Nuestro sistema es de un crecimiento continuo. Medellín y sus alrededores son una zona de alto crecimiento. Entonces, el indicador índice de pérdidas por usuario facturado se ve muy beneficiado por el crecimiento de los clientes.
Ok,
Sí, vale.
Dame un segundito. Ok, so here the IPUF, this indicator IPUF, which would be the indicator for loss per bill customer. Okay, in the case of Medellin is a growing city. It's getting more and more population. So this indicator is being it gets a better value because they are the amount of population in the cities is getting larger and larger. So you have like 10% of population increase per year, Carlos? Something like that?
No, 3%, 3%.
Oh, 3%. So this indicator gets better and better.
Bueno, de todas maneras, el indicador en porcentaje o el IPUF en metros cúbicos por usuario mes se ha visto beneficiado lógicamente. Nosotros estimamos aproximadamente 52% de nuestras pérdidas debidas a problemas comerciales o pues pérdidas comerciales y el 48% a pérdidas técnicas por fugas.
Okay. The indicator has improved during the last year. They calculate 52% of technical losses and 48% of commercial losses.
Y nuestro valor real es del 30.5% de pérdidas. Hemos visto en este año bajar aproximadamente un punto por el beneficio de tener un buen direccionamiento del tema de búsqueda de fugas.
Okay, they calculate about 30% de, perdón, Carlos, 30%.
Las pérdidas en porcentaje son aproximadamente 30.5%.
Okay, their leakage in percentage is 30.5%, and they estimate that they gain 1% because of the correct usage of Takadu in order to send the teams to the field. Okay.
Hay que aclarar que aproximadamente ese es el valor estimado de nuestro nivel económico de pérdidas, ¿no? Un valor alrededor del 30%. Nosotros hemos hecho estudios de beneficio-costo y nuestro valor objetivo es aproximadamente un 30%.
Okay. This is their sweet spot. Okay, they made some calculation of their water losses and what they want to achieve, and 30% is the right amount for their network.
Esto debido lógicamente al valor de producción del agua que tenemos.
This is due to the price of the cubic meter of water. Okay, this is because it's so cheap or not expensive, but also this is why this number is so big, 30%, and it's the sweet spot. Okay, Carlos.
Thank you. So we are running out of time. One last question I will ask here is what periodical assessments can be done to enhance asset replacement? Udi, do you want to take that?
Can you repeat the question, please?
What periodical assessments can be done to enhance asset replacements?
I'm not sure I can answer the question.
Okay. So I move to another question, and we'll try to get back to this one later. How long does it usually take to launch the system? When can we expect the system to become operational?
So as I said before, it takes something like 2 months, about 8 weeks to deploy the system. Sometimes it takes a little bit faster, sometimes a little bit slower. Depends on the speed usually the utilities are providing their data. But roughly 2 months from start to end. And there was another question in relation to that?
I think so. No, I don't think so. Okay, so I think we'll wrap up here. Thank you, everybody. We will have the webinar recording sent to you later, and if anyone has any additional questions, they're more than welcome to send them to us, and we will try our best to answer them. Thank you very much, and we're done.
See you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.